What Elon Musk has created and has accomplished with each of his 6 companies is actually a disruption machine. Elon's companies, Tesla, SpaceX, xAI, Neuralink, and the Boring Company, are likely going to disrupt more than 100 companies in the S&P 500 index that account for more than 50% of the index's market capitalization. This table here shows how each of Elon's companies are actually competing in many industries. Tesla, as an example, is not just auto, but also in insurance, energy, utilities, a broader view of transportation, manufacturing. They're now in labor with the Tesla bomb, AI chips, and computing. Today, we'll review this list and how they might do it. You can be the judge of what you agree with and what you don't. Our guest today, who did this analysis, is Cern Basher. Cern is a chartered financial analyst. He's currently running his own investment advisory firm called Brilliant Advice, providing wealth management services. Thank you so much, Cern. I appreciate you just joining me every week here.
Hi, Herbert. It's great to be back.
This is one of, I seem to be saying this all the time whenever we do these interviews, because this one I do absolutely love. It's a good look at why people can't just look at, one company and go, Tesla is in the auto business. It's actually going to disrupt many industries. And then if you combine all of Elon Musk's companies, you can just better see this is bigger than people realize. And I appreciate you doing all the work to show folks this is going to be quite exciting. So let's get started with this photo here that you shared. What is this?
This is when I asked Grok to create an image of headquarters for a future Musk Inc. This is what Grok came up with. Whether or not this is accurate or not, but certainly you can see the Cybertruck inspiration reflected in the roof of this building.
I actually don't mind it because it actually it talks about just simplicity, right? Straight lines, but also a little bit of beauty down here. So okay, so here you did this post. If you haven't yet, follow Cern on X at Cern Basher. He does this on a weekly basis, deep dive research. So here you say that you actually think of all of Musk's companies as a disruption machine. I call it an innovation engine. That's really what they are. So Elon's companies, all right, Tesla, the 6 companies, are likely going to disrupt more than 100 companies in the S&P 500, more than 50% index market capitalization. That is a lot. So tell me what you're thinking here.
Yeah, I think maybe I've been a bit provocative with the title, but you're right. It stems from how innovative the companies are and the side effect of all that innovation across all these companies, which, as we know, work together on many projects. Right, the body for the Cybertruck, for example, is through some work with SpaceX engineers and so on. So there's a lot of cross pollination with the companies, and so the idea is it's important as for Tesla investors to understand that even if Tesla does not have an equity investment in any of these other companies, there are a lot of benefits that will accrue to Tesla over time from the work that these other companies are doing. And then as I began to look at it and consider it more deeply, I realized that there'll be massive disruption across the entire marketplace and across the S&P 500. As you mentioned, about 50% of the S&P market cap, I think, could be disrupted in some way. Now, I should say here at the outset that disruption doesn't mean that Tesla and these other companies that I'm referring to as Musk Inc. Outcompete and destroy and put all these other companies in the S&P out of business. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just suggesting that it won't be business as usual. They will have to adapt in some way, which many of these companies already are. And as Tesla benefits, there are also many other companies in the S&P that will also likely benefit. But it is kind of staggering to consider the level of disruption in all the different areas that all of Elon's companies are focused on at this point.
And what I like to invest in myself is disruptive companies. And what that means is that there's a market, right? There's lots of competitors. It's usually a very large TAM, large market to either be part of or win. But if this disruption happens, if it's true disruption, that means that all the old legacy companies that are succeeding will just not be able to compete. There's you've created something so innovative that people are you're taking over the big chunk of that market. So we know Tesla has done that, right, with electric vehicles. But you're going to point out they're not just in EVs, they're in all sorts of other businesses. And then just last week, Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas came out with a note, and he was saying that if you're a Tesla investor, you need to expand your thinking to realize that there's going to be partnerships amongst all these companies. And the big one was there was a rumor that XAI and Tesla, they were going to create some sort of licensing agreement between the two. So let's, I love this table. This is my absolute favorite table that you've shown. You come out straight out of it. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, this was my attempt at trying to show the breadth and depth of the adventures that all these companies are going after. So with Tesla on the top row there, starting on the left side, we all know about autos, and Tesla's also becoming a player in the insurance business, although that's happening very slowly, but still that will be material over time. Many people know about Tesla's energy business that will disrupt energy and the utility industries. The Tesla Semi has the potential to disrupt transportation and trucking, robotaxi, commuting and travel. The humanoid robot that will disrupt manufacturing and even human labor, which is the largest component of GDP for the world. Tesla's Dojo systems, disrupting AI chips and systems. And then there's also potential to disrupt the cloud computing business. Those are just a few of the disruptions coming from Tesla. But it would be a mistake then to ignore the disruptions coming from Elon's other sort of sister companies, right? And so X, disrupting news and video streaming and payments and eventually banking and shopping and social media and even perhaps communications, right? And then XAI with a layer of AI that's being infused then into X and then also into Tesla's products. And the ability there to suddenly disrupt, internet search. So that's massively disrupting Google. Advertising. If we have AI agents, then what's the point of advertising to humans if AI agents can do your shopping for you? So the disruptions from XAI, I think, will be very interesting. And then layer on top of that is disruption happening in space. Not only the ability to put materials into space cheaply, which is the first disruption, but as we're seeing already, disrupting internet and communication services. And then how about in the future, disrupting mining? There's a lot of opportunity for mining in space. Drug manufacturing. Apparently, manufacturing drugs in space could be very important, very helpful. Also, delivery. Using the Starship to deliver something anywhere on the planet in a matter of hours could be pretty disruptive. And then, of course, tourism. And then, of course, Neuralink and the Boring Company, their own disruptions. And for me, what's interesting to me is Elon is disrupting everything on land, everything in space, and then with the Boring Company, everything underground. Okay, the only thing he's not disrupting is anything on the water at this point, and that's a hole in the portfolio, right? But is that even necessary? So that's kind of interesting. And then, of course, with Neuralink disrupting computing as well, and of course XAI is disrupting computing, but computing also then in the brain, putting the computer in our brains. So just on that level, when you think about that, Elon's disrupting everything that moves, and then computing, and those are just two enormous things. Not to mention labor, by the way, which is probably the third component of it.
Exactly, because you didn't put you put labor. It's a tiny little thing down here. It's actually
not
probably
to minimize
bigger. It's probably bigger than all of this, maybe, or half of this.
Could be.
Yeah, I love this. It's so much with the bot, but yeah, you're right. I mean, so Tesla, SpaceX, and Boring Company, they're disrupting transportation. Neuralink, X, and XAI, it's like everything else, right? Compute, intelligence, education, and entertainment. And then
even SpaceX has the potential to disrupt compute. There's talk about putting AI-powered data centers in space.
Yeah, I don't. There was a startup that did that. It doesn't make sense to me, but okay. But
who knows? That down the road, that's not an immediate thing. Sure. Yep.
But I think the more critical thing is if you're a Tesla investor And number one, you realize that we're not just disrupting electric vehicles, you're disrupting many industries. And a big one everybody realizes now that we're getting to the bots, that's going to disrupt the largest industry, labor, but also creating factories that can make anything. And you combine the factories, automated factories, intelligent factories, mega, gigafactories with labor, with bots. You can build anything, and then you can deliver anything cheaper. And then when you talk about the combination of each of these, that's where it gets very, very interesting. A simple one would be Neuralink and the bot. If you're a human with an amputated arm, you can put a bot arm on it and you can control it with your brain. You've got the XAI Grok, so you can speak to your bot, you can speak to your car, it can know things. You can make payments, entertainment. Maybe you can watch videos. It depends on how really they become disruptive. Right now, it's not quite there yet for X. He just bought it, but and the other one too, it's like, right? You just heard this morning that United Airlines is now adopting Starlink so that you can have basically as fast of an internet as you have at home and down on the ground as you do on the plane now. You can do everything now for free. So imagine when they start putting Starlinks in your cars and your Cybertrucks, and everything that moves can have a Starlink connected to it. That's a huge advantage, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the general disruptions here are enormous. Another way to think about it is disrupting everything that moves. Mm-hmm. Right. X is kind of the consumption or the communication layer among humans, shopping and payments and everything that humans need to do. XAI, you can kind of think of that as kind of the brains, right? Creating, infusing artificial intelligence into everything. To me, SpaceX and Tesla are similar in the sense that they're disrupting everything that moves, right? Whether it's on land or in space. And, that's critical that we are able to efficiently and effectively move things around the planet and then eventually, of course, off the planet. Yeah. So yes, the layers of disruption here are kind of interesting as you start to peel them back. And then, of course, when you look at the S&P 500 and the businesses that these companies have, is at least 100 companies, I think, that will be disrupted in some way by the collection of Elon's companies.
Yeah, and you're not saying that they're going to die. You're just you clarified at the beginning that this is just meaning that this is the businesses that Tesla is going to get into and offering something that might actually be better than what's existing there. So they're going to have to adapt. But Tesla has basically, the point is they're not one company. Tesla's businesses can disrupt up to 50% of the S&P 500. Yeah. So let's walk me through all this. We'll go through each one of them, right? So let's.
We'll talk in detail about the top 6, but in terms of Tesla, again, just a kind of an itemized list of some of the disruptions that are current and in future. Mm-hmm. As we know, Tesla is disrupting the auto business across the board, whether it's the OEMs, the dealers, the repair shops, insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Battery manufacturing, Tesla's been a major innovator in batteries. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the energy and utilities businesses, whether it's the oil and gas business, whether it's energy storage, whether it's gas stations, and utilities. And the disruptions that are happening there are still in the early stages. So any company that touches these businesses, it is no longer business as usual for them.
Nice. Nicely said. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
The future disruptions is, we can see these starting to take shape. Robotaxi will disrupt auto ownership, right? We've talked about this before. People won't need to own automobiles in the future, right? Very few people feel the need to own airplanes today. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. You don't need to own a train. You don't need to own a boat. You won't need to own a car either. Okay, you can if you want to. No one's taking that away from you, but economically, it won't make sense to own a car, most likely. It's going to disrupt public transportation. Again, it'll be cheaper than buses and trains, cheaper than Uber and taxis and so on. It may even disrupt short-haul air travel. We've talked about this, right? Flying on airlines is kind of a pain. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Get in a vehicle, take a nap, go to sleep, play games, do whatever you want, work. It's more reliable to get to where you want to in time. So anyway, the list grows there as you start adding humanoid robots. You're disrupting, the layout of our cities, the way that we make things, and then of course at the bottom there, computing with Dojo and so on, developing their own chips. you have the potential to disrupt computing. That's just at Tesla. That's not factoring in the other companies yet, which will contribute their part of that too. There's probably more. There's probably more you could add on this list.
There's way more. Yeah. So I see some of these. I would say that Tesla is going into this business, and so they're going to get revenue. But there's others that, like real estate. Not necessarily meaning that Tesla is going to do any of this. It's just that if you offer automated driving, people who are deeply invested in certain real estate may find that could be, you have to start rethinking it. Yeah.
Yeah, it disrupts real estate because, well, for one thing, gas stations on prominent corners, we won't need as many. So there's an opportunity there to repurpose those.
Yeah.
But even for commuters, if it may make living in denser downtown cores more appealing, if traffic is silent,
or the
if
other
you
way
don't
around.
have pollution from ICE vehicles, diesel trucks, it may also make commuting for a longer time more appealing. People may actually want to live outside the core.
Yeah.
Because you can just take a nap while you're commuting to work. So just urban planning in general, whether it's a city center or outside the city, is going to change. That's for sure. Just a question of how long that will take. Same thing with parking. Frankly, it's going to disrupt parking.
Great way to think about all this. Okay, so let's go through X. Tell me more about how you see this. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one is disrupting the official narrative. Right? People have free speech on X. People can say what they want. It's harder for governments or whomever to control an official narrative, and try as they might. I think that will be hopefully a failing battle. It's disrupting media and traditional news. We've seen that. It will disrupt advertising, video streaming, and social media. It has the potential anyway to disrupt those businesses. And in the future, we know this is coming. It's going to disrupt payments. X is now approved, I believe, in 32 states and District of Columbia as a payment transmitter. So they may not roll it out until they're approved in all states. They're not yet approved in New York, last time I checked. That would be an important one. And they'll probably offer banking services and eventually shopping, maybe communications. We'll see.
Yep. He's calling it the Everything app. And he's now offered not just text, long form, news articles, and also video, even up to 4 hours worth of video. So people may not know that he's going right after TikTok and YouTube and all that. So
that's right. Yeah. So that, the Everything app is kind of everything that consumers need for their daily lives.
Yeah.
XAI basically is the brains. They're developing artificial intelligence, and that will be infused in everything else across the board. It will become the voice of the bot, the voice of the vehicle, the voice of anything else that Tesla decides to make. And so the disruptions here are kind of mostly in the future because the AI is still in development, right? So they've already kind of disrupted some of the other AI model developers. That list of those companies is really winnowed down, and so on. But the future disruptions could be across the board.
Yeah, I think people are saying at this point that there's only going to be actually a limited number of competitors because you need billions, if not trillions of dollars to build the largest, data warehouses, data centers, compute. And if it's a race to that. And so then it's only going to be a handful of companies that can afford it. Good thing that XAI is going to be one of those probably. SpaceX.
Yep. SpaceX, it's already disrupting the internet connectivity business. We're seeing that already. Telecommunications. SpaceX has the ability to disrupt the aerospace and defense industries should they go that route and start making spaceships and planes and so on. That's a possibility. I guess you could say currently they were just disrupting the aerospace business in the sense that the Falcon 9 rocket is getting the majority of the launches. That's certainly a big disruption relative to the other players. And if it wasn't for SpaceX, we would actually have to rely on Russia to put things into space at this point. So we're disrupting the Russians too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, sure.
Future disruptions, shipping and logistics, to the extent Starship can be used for that here on Earth, and then the opportunity for mining and manufacturing and tourism, even generating energy in space. And then perhaps computing in space. The long term, ideally, you want to put the dirty industries into space. We want to keep Earth as pristine and as clean as possible. So long term, that's what we want to do. Is put all the dirty stuff, off planet. So that could be very disruptive for all those industries.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling when you think about it because it seems like they have solved the biggest issue, reusable rockets.
Mm.
Now you can make it as cheap as a plane ride, and so you can have just as many rocket, blast offs and getting to space. And so now you can do all sorts of things. You can build a base in the moon. You can, build a big, large solar panel that's as close to the sun as possible. I mean, all these things now maybe the business model might turn positive, like mining. You can find an asteroid, land on the asteroid, and then mine it, solve all of Earth's problems. I mean, you
It's
never know
trillions
what
and
can happen.
trillions of dollars of minerals in the asteroids.
Yeah,
So it's just a matter of time before we tackle that challenge.
that's crazy.
If,
What can
if
happen?
people are worried about not having enough resources on Earth, well, don't
Yeah,
worry anymore. We have plenty of resources. We'll just have to go after it
just go
off of
after it.
Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neuralink, this is long term a super exciting one because
Yeah.
this disrupts human brains, right? We're putting computers inside our heads. So initially, it's assistive technology, which is amazing for people that have lost the ability for certain things, whether it's the use of their arms, their limbs, eyesight, that kind of thing. But eventually, it may disrupt the drug makers that sell mental health drugs.
Mhm.
If you could have a system in your brain that can regulate your brain better than what drugs can do, and probably without the side effects, right? It'll disrupt computing. It'll disrupt learning. Sorry, just go back to computing for a second. There's no point in having an iPhone if you have a computer in your head,
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the big long-term risk for Apple is that they can innovate the iPhone. There'll be the iPhone 45. It won't matter, right? We'll have a Neuralink in our brains.
Right.
And right now, it sounds crazy to think about this,
Hmm.
um, but in a decade or two, it'll seem perfectly normal. We already walk around with a phone in our hand most of the time, looking at this device. So what's it's just another step to put it inside our body, inside our brain.
Hmm.
So that therefore disrupts, everything like learning and education, right? What's the point of going to school if you can basically just, download the information to your head, or at least learn more effectively and more quickly? Changes the nature of gaming and entertainment, productivity, telecommunications. Again, don't need a phone. And then from a health perspective, right, the ability to monitor what's going on in your body potentially is phenomenal. The opportunity there is enormous. And the health insurance providers, one of the biggest companies in the S&P 500, United Healthcare, could be massively disrupted by this longer term.
It's crazy. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is amazing. And obviously, I was thinking the same thing, which is if the combination of this is why Elon did this, right? Neuralink plus XAI. Now you have access to AI. Like,
Yeah.
all the knowledge that the humans have. You don't need Google search anymore. You just you are Google search. You could access it instantly. And then you got all the entertainment in the world. You can watch whatever you want to watch. You can watch this video
Yeah.
if we're still
The,
around at that time.
the other thing, Herbert, too, that I think is important to point out here is this is actually a hedge against AI.
Right.
You become AI, and therefore you can compete against it, right?
Yeah.
And also humanoid robots in some sense.
Okay. Well, this one is a little bit further out as we
Yep.
think, because it's just too hard for many of us to agree that this
Yep.
is something that's kind of coming in near term. These ones here, though, all the others you've said is here. And this is pretty well, the only one issue with the Boring Company is they can't get regulatory approval. And that's why this has taken forever.
Yeah, and there'll be a tipping point on that one day, and their system will operate faster than the snail and all that. But once it does, it disrupts roads,
Mm.
public transport, parking, trucking, and rail. I mean, if you put everything underground, like why wouldn't we put everything underground if we could,
Hmm.
right? And just the utility infrastructure, all the eventually overhead power lines and all that stuff, put it underground. Um,
Yeah.
the opportunity here is enormous, and it also longer term has the ability to disrupt shipping from one continent to another. And of course, that would involve some pretty long, boring tunnels and maybe even some hyperloops inside them. But shipping is a very dirty industry, very polluting. And if you could disrupt that long term, that would be very exciting.
All right, that's good. So we covered the 6 companies. Now you're talking about these just these 4 of these companies, what they're going to disrupt, and you're talking about what is this? You're comparing it against all the top companies in the S&P
Yeah, and
500.
I'm sorry I failed to change the title. I started out with those 4 companies. Now I've expanded it to all of
Gotcha.
the Musk Inc. companies. So I should say
Okay.
Musk Inc. up there.
Yeah.
But I just took a look at the top 20 companies in the S&P, and people are familiar with most of these. And
Okay.
basically, I was hard pressed to come up with any single company that would not be disrupted in some way
Hmm.
by Musk Inc. Now, I put Tesla in blue because they're constantly disrupting themselves.
Hmm.
And I put Oracle in green because Larry Ellison is a good personal friend
Mhm.
of Elon.
Yeah.
Um, Technically, Elon could be disrupting Oracle, but Oracle actually helped XAI do the training for their latest model. So I
Mhm.
see Oracle as almost a sister company in some ways to Musk Inc.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, but technically, yes, Oracle could be in red there if they weren't so friendly. But every single other company on this list, I think, could be disrupted by Musk Inc. in one or more ways long term, which is phenomenal. These are the
Yeah.
20 largest
Yeah.
companies in the
I love
S&P.
it. Yeah. I can see, I can agree with this. Apple, I think, will take a long time. Okay. If you're talking about Neuralink replacing that, that's going to take a long time. But what's the percentage? Are you saying that this is the one that's going to have the most percentage of impact?
That's the percentage of Apple in the S&P 500. So it's about
Oh,
six
gotcha.
and a half percent of the S&P.
Gotcha. Okay.
So to the extent that Musk Inc. is successful in disrupting Apple, then 6.5% of the S&P is at risk.
Okay. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really long time personally. Yeah. Because if it's just Neuralink. But Nvidia, again, they don't have the market is so massive that Nvidia. The other part about this is S&P is going to grow. like
Yeah.
the market cap of technology opening things up is so good. There's going to be many in the future. You might be able to see that all of this is going to be all AI companies, right? Nvidia companies and so
Oh,
forth.
I think it's highly likely. And I've
Yeah.
got some further details here on the top 6 from Apple
Yeah.
down to Meta.
Okay.
But Berkshire, for example, let's just talk about them for a second. Auto insurance,
Right.
the railway business,
Oil.
oil, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different components of Berkshire Hathaway that could potentially be at risk.
I think so. Love it. Okay. This is great. I appreciate you. I mean, that's the interesting thing. It's like you can name a company and there's something that Tesla, the Musk companies might actually get into that business. Let's go down
Yeah.
each one of them. Apple.
Yeah. So here's this talking about the top 6 and starting with Apple. So here's Apple's business as it stands today, right? The iPhone is a $39 billion business. This, by the way, is in one quarter.
Mhm.
MacBook, iPad, watch, AirPods, and then the services business is a decent chunk, right? So 85 billion in revenue. Those are the lines of businesses for Apple. If you go to the next page, I just sort of show in a stylized way the Musk Inc. companies that can kind of attack each of those business lines.
How's Tesla going to disrupt the iPhone?
So Tesla will disrupt iPhone and all the other businesses because the robot is a computing platform, right? Now, again, I'm not suggesting you throw away your phone or you throw away your MacBook, but you won't
Yeah.
need it as much, right? If you can talk to your robot and it can read your emails and make phone calls for you, then you don't need to carry your phone around or carry a computer around as much. So it will disrupt Apple in that respect, and maybe more than we think. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Yeah, I'm not one that believes and agrees with that. I know a lot of people are saying that and just doesn't make sense to me. Just
Yeah.
because you have a bot doesn't mean that you're going to be with that bot 24 hours a day, that you're going to want to, you're still going to need your phone for entertainment, looking videos, watching things. I don't see how that's going to disrupt them at all.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, they could put a video screen on the bot. There'll certainly be a video screen on the
It's
robotaxi,
weird. Yeah.
right? We'll see how this develops. And also, I think that it's quite likely that essentially Tesla may need to come up with a phone of their own at some point to cover that gap where there are the times that you don't have your bot or you're not in a robotaxi or you need some kind of device. And so they may be forced to enter that market just to cover that gap.
I can see XAI doing it. I don't see Tesla, but I also don't think that he might do it because the whole point of Neuralink was
Yeah,
why create the thing that's so slow, right? The slow.
sure.
He's already talked about the thumb and the fingers is
Yeah.
such a slow way to communicate. That's why verbal is much faster. but just direct link is the fastest. So why are we doing these, thumb in the phone thing?
Exactly.
But
So I think you're right. Ultimately, Neuralink is the answer here in terms of the biggest threat to Apple, but that's
it
down
is.
the road.
Yeah,
And XAI with its
for
AI
sure. Yeah,
products.
that could
Yeah.
definitely disrupt them. I think in a way, if Apple, and it looks like that they might completely just bungle the whole thing, if they don't integrate the right AI tool into this thing, then they're become dumb phones all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Their smartphone has become a dumb phone.
There's a
And
huge
then,
opportunity for them, but it's also a
yeah,
huge risk. They need to be
yeah,
smart about this.
yep.
Yeah.
Love this. Okay, interesting.
So that's Apple. The next one is Nvidia.
Hmm.
Now, Nvidia is the supplier of AI chips and systems. That's the biggest business. That's where most of the profits come from. Tesla's Dojo is certainly potentially down the road could be a competitor to that.
Hmm.
That remains to be seen. We're not sure. And then Nvidia's other businesses are much smaller.
Yeah.
So 30 billion per quarter revenue company. About
The thing
16
is,
billion.
right, by the time we're talking 3 to 5 years, I think all of AI will be so big. Nvidia will be 5 times the size where it is today. Tesla will then be able to get the same size as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the market is so big that it's not like one company's not going to just be disruptive anymore. You know what I mean? They're not going to take away business from them. They'll all grow so big.
Yep, there's
Particularly
potential
this
for
one.
that too.
Particularly this one company versus the others. Like, I agree with you. Apple may not be able to survive. Who knows, right? What's going to happen to them? But
They will be disrupted, so it will force them to change the way they do
yeah,
business in some way, and whether that proves to be successful or not remains to be seen.
right.
Yeah, but there's a huge opportunity for them. So here's how Musk Inc. disrupts Nvidia.
Yeah,
Tesla, again with Dojo, and then I think XAI on
yeah,
the AI side. And then of course Neuralink, with gaming and so on. We'll see. I put SpaceX up there because on the data center side, putting the data centers in space could be a bit disruptive to Nvidia.
hmm,
Although Nvidia is not really a data center, operator,
hmm.
so maybe that's a bit of a stretch. But it's really on the chip side and system side that Tesla could
It's
disrupt
a
Nvidia.
it's a big stretch. But if this idea of data centers in space actually makes sense, which at this point I still don't understand why it would. But let's say it is, because the cost to cool it down is so much
Mhm.
less. Um, Space, right? You don't have to have as much somehow getting the power from the sun because you're closer. If all this is true, then you're right. Because what happens is Nvidia is going to try to sell chips to people who want to create data centers. Well, probably SpaceX will say, "Well, our data centers are powered by Dojo," and it's all much more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen? This is fun to figure this out. Okay.
I think you've hit on a key thing. Like cooling the systems in space would be much easier, right? It's much
Yeah.
colder. And then, of course, you don't have the real estate constraints in terms of, you could have a massive solar, you could make a solar array as big as you wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Huge solar arrays. The challenge
Mm-hmm.
is just getting the materials up in space right now, but
Yeah.
obviously SpaceX is working on that
Yeah.
in terms of Starship, right? Driving the cost down.
It's exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's unbelievable what can happen. Okay. So Microsoft, this is interesting.
Yeah, Microsoft has these business lines. The server is basically the Azure business line. And then you've got the traditional businesses of Office, think about the productivity software, and then Windows operating system. You've got Xbox gaming, you've got LinkedIn, and then the search business, search and advertising, and then some other businesses. So Microsoft is a pretty diverse revenue business right now.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, if you look at the next page, you can see that it will be under attack from many levels with Tesla, with XAI, Neuralink, and even SpaceX on a couple of business lines.
Yeah.
So, same story. They're a cloud computing business, the server, the Microsoft Azure. Same story as we just discussed with Nvidia in terms of Tesla, and then eventually putting the data centers in space with SpaceX. The productivity software with humanoid bots, with XAI in terms of AI, just handling a lot of those productivity tasks, taking that away from humans.
Yeah.
You won't need the software anymore.
Yeah.
They're
Much
like,
less.
why
Yep.
would I need to put this on a spreadsheet if I can just ask AI to do it for me?
Exactly. Yep. It's already out there today. And
Yeah.
XAI could do this. Grok could do this today.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't need to. Yeah. No need for separate software, presentation software, spreadsheets. Yeah.
No.
Word. Don't need it.
Gaming in the cars for Tesla,
Mhm.
on X for X,
Mhm.
you know, the everything app in China. That's a big gaming platform, one of the biggest gaming platforms in the world.
Yeah, XAI's or AI in general is just you can now make a game. You just tell it to create an app, and it'll create an app for you.
Yeah.
I think I saw one yesterday. Create Tetris for me, and then like 30 seconds later, boom, here's Tetris.
And Tesla's ability to create real world images would be really powerful for gaming, right? It'll look like you're walking around in the real world.
Right.
They're already
Oh my
doing that to
God.
train the vehicles. It's not a
Yes.
big extension to say they take that technology and develop games.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. This
LinkedIn,
is.
I mean, who needs LinkedIn when you have X
Yep.
and add an AI layer on top of that? Who
Mhm.
needs search when you have AI?
Yep.
The advertising business suffers also because if the AI is, you know, acting as your agent, you don't need to advertise to humans anymore.
That's brilliant. Okay.
Okay.
Google. This one I've been saying for a long time, but a lot of people disagree with me. Google search. They
Yeah.
think that Google's DeepMind is now supplementing it. So if you do ask a question, it'll answer it for you. But they have to disrupt themselves because
That's right.
why would you need a list of 10 links on the first page? You don't need that link anymore. Why would you need the advertisements on the right there? If you
Yeah.
have an issue, you just ask the question and it'll tell you the answers right there. And so they're in big trouble, I think. But a lot of people disagree.
The search and the advertising business for Google is basically the business. 48 billion
Yeah.
a quarter in revenue is huge. YouTube is also big. You know, Google's Play, the gaming business, Google Cloud is also big. So there's a lot of disruptions happening here. It's the same ones that we just talked about with Microsoft across the board. In my opinion, of these big 6 companies, Google is the most at risk.
Yeah.
But like you said, DeepMind is a pretty valuable asset for Google.
Mm-hmm.
So they have an opportunity to do well here too. But they do have to disrupt a lot of their own businesses, which is hard to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So similar picture. You know, the Musk Inc. company is kind of attacking it at multiple levels. It's not just from one company.
Yeah. It's hard to see that YouTube will be disrupted, even with these other companies doing it. But yeah, never know, right? What the future of video streaming is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that YouTube has struggled with is censoring people.
Yeah.
And to the extent that that continues, I think that people may be looking increasingly for another platform, and X has the potential to step up into that role. Whether they can or will remains to be seen, but there's an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. It's all about ad revenue share, or can you make money? Content creators making money. I think that's where it drives it. And so we'll see if X becomes a payment platform, and you're attached to AI, and Google's AI does not somehow is as good as XAI. It's a race. It's a race. Yeah. That's where you can truly disrupt a company, an organization that exists today. If X is a payment platform and you can make money, you'd rather do content creation there. Right now, though, most of the money's made in YouTube, almost all of it versus X. Right?
Yeah.
It's non-existent yet.
There's a long way to go there for sure, but there's a big opportunity longer term. This one's interesting. Amazon's online store, Amazon.com, the physical store, think of Whole Foods, and third-party seller services, basically Amazon.com, where you buy stuff from other people. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether you're buying from Amazon or not, but those collections of businesses are pretty big for Amazon. But Amazon's advertising business has been a rapidly growing business. You know, this past quarter, 20% year-over-year growth. Subscription business with Amazon Prime, and then the cloud business, AWS, which is there, as you can see under the operating profit line there on the right side, they had almost 15 billion in operating profit in the quarter, and AWS was 9 billion of that. Right? Everything else is only 5. So you disrupt their cloud business, and suddenly Amazon is much less appealing. Right? Those other businesses are not making it nearly as much money. So, as we've discussed, AI, Dojo, can disrupt the cloud business and eventually the data centers and space concept.
Come on, dude. How come you haven't said it yet? We did a whole show on this. If you have automated driving, you can do delivery.
Yep.
If you can do delivery, you don't need to order from Amazon. And the reason why Amazon's able to lower prices is because they have a better distribution than a Walmart or these Targets and these Best Buy, because it's expensive to have retail locations. Now you got Amazon, but then if you can go point to point, you don't need to have these distribution store factories or buildings, and then you can go online because it's so much cheaper to deliver it. So
that will be a hard thing to disrupt. The investment that Amazon's made is colossal in the distribution business. That'll be very difficult, but there's an opportunity with autonomous vehicles to disrupt that, with autonomous semis that Tesla will eventually have. Yes, there's an opportunity to disrupt.
Amazon will have it too, right? They already are invested in Rivian. They're invested in other lots of robots, so they'll be able to connect to it.
Yeah, I think the biggest risk to Amazon longer term is any disruption to the AWS business.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is how Elon Musk can do this.
Yeah, so similar story here. Various Musk Inc. companies attacking the different business lines. I think we just discussed most of this. But Amazon, to their credit, have been a big investor in automation and robots. They will be a big investor, I would imagine, in humanoid robots. So I see less risk in Amazon than I do in a Google. Yeah. But we'll see. With Amazon, I wrote down some of the for the different business lines. I think we've discussed most of this, but this was the company I looked at first, and I decided against sort of writing down each line item, but I did preserve this.
Yeah, this is
these
nice.
Thoughts.
Okay. Yeah.
Meta.
Facebook. Yeah.
Meta is an advertising business, and to me, this is probably the most at-risk company.
Yes.
Now, to their credit, they're developing a large language model that's basically open sourced and so on. So they're taking a different approach. So this may be it may be a winner for them. It remains to be seen. But their current businesses, in my opinion, are massively at risk as AI infiltrates everything.
Yeah, exactly.
To have a business that's basically 100% reliant on advertising, I think, is pretty risky at this point.
Yeah. I think it's a very good point you made, which is currently today, people have a user interface that they go to, right? I go to my Instagram, I go to my X, I go to my Facebook, I go to YouTube. If AI continues developing where it is, just like when the internet came, brand new user interfaces, new apps, and then the iPhone came, new apps, same thing now. With AI, there can be new ways to access certain information faster, quicker, more appealing, more, complete. So this is it's all open for grabs again.
I would go as far to say that apps are history.
Yes.
You don't need an app anymore with AI, but you don't need that interface for humans. AI just will interface with whatever it needs to interface. You don't need a fancy app.
Well, the question is, how do you interface with that AI? And so that's where, do I open up my Grok? Do I open up my Chat GPT, right?
You talk to your humanoid robot, or you just talk to AI.
Some of it, for sure. But you have to be near the bot. You know what I mean? Like, I still don't think...
The bot will come to you,
I still think it's going to be a wearable, or eventually in the future, a Neuralink.
No, sure, when you're not at work or not at home, yes. Or if you're not in a vehicle. So if you're outside, then you need a wearable of some sort.
I think you need a wearable. I don't see the bot. Yeah,
I would love to be able to ditch my phone and not have to carry it around with me, even inside my house.
Yeah. Okay. You know how I rewatched the Star Wars? It's irritating to have C-3PO. He's a fun friend, but he's also can get irritating. So I agree with you.
We have 3 dogs in our house. They follow us around all day long. Now, if they could only talk to us and do things, that would be cool. But we're used to having creatures follow us around.
Nah. All right. Okay. So that's great. Thank you for doing that. That was fantastic. We went through quite a bit, and I'm going to go back to the original Sorry, guys. I shouldn't have done this. I'm annoying to this beautiful, beautiful slide. Basically, all of 6 companies can address so many things, and some of them are very early, so it's a bit of a stretch. But some of them are getting very strong, so it's not a stretch at all to say that SpaceX, Space Starlink is fully developed at this point. Then you've got quite a number of all these in Tesla that's fully developed, except for the AI chips and cloud and the labor that's coming. X is still very new. XAI is still very new. And then, of course, Neuralink has slowed down quite a bit. And Neuralink is just now beginning. But this is what you're doing, right? You're investing in Tesla, and you have this ability to take advantage of all these other things. And that's the thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, and even just if a few of these ventures are wildly successful, it changes the world, right?
Yeah.
And it changes the nature of the S&P. So change is coming. It's a question of what it will look like. And I'm just kind of here to say that changed from one set of companies, maybe more than we currently realize. That's really all I'm trying to say with this. No doubt there will be disruptions from some of these other companies that we think could be disrupted. Yeah. Right. There may be some moves that Apple and Amazon do that Tesla will have to respond to, for example. We should expect that too. They may have their own plans to disrupt aspects of Tesla's business. But the fact remains, if you think the world is going to change, stay the same, it's not. It's going to quickly change.
Love it. Thank you, Cern. I mean, we started this show calling Tesla or Elon's companies as a disruption machine, as an innovation engine. So that's what Elon does. That's what these companies do. They create innovation. And then all of a sudden, you see what their vision was, right? They start with one thing, and then it's like, oh my God, it's much bigger. And I think that's the message today, is that we're now at the point. I'm glad that we did this show today, as opposed to, let's say, last year, because it's very believable now what you're saying. So much progress has already been made in Tesla and SpaceX, even XAI, how quickly in just several months, Neuralink now has 2 patients. So it's no longer this, this R&D thing that is theoretical. It's happening. These patients have Neuralink in them, and they're controlling computers. They're playing games and chess at real time. And they're not using vision. They're not using, mouse movements. They're just thinking ahead, and it happens. And then you combine all them together. So more than 100 companies in S&P 500, accounts for more than 50% of the market cap that's out there today. That's what we're talking about. And then the final message is what we said already, which is Tesla can take advantage from all of these benefits. And so it
certainly has the potential to. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much, Cern. Follow Cern on X at Cern Basher. And, there's been quite a number of shows we do. We've been doing one regularly each week, and they are just bangers. They're all very, very good because Cern, as you saw here, comes up with these tables and research. And as he says all the time in every one of these shows, what he tries to do is give you the list, the equation. It's up to you. You'll probably disagree. And like I did with him a few times, but that's the point. Just throw it out there, have a framework, and let's have a discussion, because generally it's in the right direction. So thank you so much, Cern. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, Herbert. Thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.